Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. At 10 o'clock this morning, the Prime Minister received a call from the Prime Minister of Australia informing him that two possible objects related to the search for MH370 has been identified in the southern Indian Ocean. The Australian authorities in Kuala Lumpur have also briefed me on the situation, and the Australian Foreign Minister has spoken to the Foreign Minister of Malaysia. The Australian Maritime Safety Authority continues coordinating the search for the missing Malaysian Airlines aircraft within Australia's search and rescue area, with assistance from the Australian Defence Force, the New Zealand Air Force, and the US Navy. AMSA's Rescue Coordination Centre, RCC, Australia has received satellite imagery of objects possibly related to the search for MH370. RCC Australia received an expert assessment of commercial satellite imagery today. The images were captured by satellite. They may not be related to the aircraft. The assessment of these images was provided by the Australian Geospatial Intelligence Organisation as a possible indication of debris southwest of Perth. As a result of this information, 4 aircraft have been reorientated to the area 2,500 kilometres southwest of Perth. A Royal Australian Air Force P3 Orion aircraft arrived in the area at about 10:50 a.m. Another 3 aircraft have been tasked by RCC Australia to the area, including a second RAAF Orion, a Royal New Zealand Air Force Orion, and a US Navy P-8 Poseidon. The Poseidon was expected to arrive early this afternoon. The second RAAF Orion was expected to depart RAAF base Perth mid-afternoon. The New Zealand Orion was due to depart this afternoon. An RAAF C-130 Hercules aircraft has been tasked by RCC Australia to drop data marker buoys to assist in drift modelling. They will provide an ongoing reference point if the task of relocating the objects becomes protracted. A merchant ship that responded to a shipping broadcast issued by RCC Australia on Monday was also expected to arrive in the area this afternoon. The Royal Australian Navy ship HMS Success is en route to the area but some days away. The ship is well equipped to recover any objects located and proven to be from MH370. Every effort is being made to locate the objects seen in the satellite imagery. It must be stressed that these sightings, while credible, are still to be confirmed. The search for MH370 is a multinational effort. I will now give you an update on the assets which have been deployed. During the course of this operation, the Chief of the Defence Force has spoken to his counterparts from countries including Australia, China, India, Indonesia, Japan, Maldives, Nepal, New Zealand, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, the UK, and the USA. All were very supportive and all offered their assistance. As the focus of the search has moved from the South China Sea and Straits of Malacca to the northern and southern corridors, our international partners have continued to provide whatever support they can. A number of assets have been deployed at different phases of the search and rescue operation, and currently there are 18 ships, 29 aircraft, and 6 ship-borne helicopters deployed along the northern and southern corridors as follows. In the northern corridor, there are 4 aircraft, 2 from Malaysia, 1 from Japan, and 1 from the US. In the southern corridor, there are 25 aircraft, 2 from Malaysia, 5 from Australia, 3 from China, 4 from Indonesia, 2 from India, 4 from Japan, 1 from New Zealand, 2 from South Korea, 1 from the UAE, and 1 from the USFA. All 18 ships are in the southern corridor, 6 from Malaysia, 1 from Australia, 5 from China, and 6 from Indonesia. This deployment includes 6 helicopters, 3 from Malaysia, and 3 from China. Until we are certain that we have located MH370, search and rescue operations will continue in both corridors. I can confirm that Malaysia is sending 2 aircraft to Kazakhstan, and the UK is planning to send 1 ship to the southern corridor. In addition to the assets I just listed above, a number of countries in the Northern Corridor are carrying out search and rescue operations within their own territory. China is using every means possible, including 21 satellites, to search the area within its borders and is ready to send more ships and aircraft wherever they are needed. In Cambodia, 4 helicopters are conducting search operations within Cambodia territory. The Laos Air Force is carrying out search operations within Laos. Singapore are using their International Information Fusion Center, where a Malaysian representative is stationed to notify mariners and help with the search. The Thai military are conducting search operations in the northern part of Thailand with all available aircraft. And Vietnam are conducting search operations within their territory using an unspecified number of aircraft. Together, this represents a significant international force deployment, and I am thankful for the cooperation of our partners as we continue to focus on finding MH370. Families. The high-level team I announced yesterday is leaving for Beijing this evening. I would also like to confirm that representatives from the Malaysian government spoke to the families who were present here yesterday. In addition, the Prime Minister's special envoy to China and the Chinese ambassador to Malaysia will lead a briefing today for the Chinese families who are here in Kuala Lumpur. Also in attendance will be the Department of Civil Aviation, the Armed Forces, the Royal Malaysian Police, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and MAS. A similar briefing will also be held for the other families. Ladies and gentlemen, for the families around the world, the one piece of information that we want most, that they want most, is the information we just don't have, the location of MH370. Our primary focus has always been to find the aircraft, and with every passing day, our efforts have intensified. Yesterday, I said we wanted to reduce the area of the search. We now have a credible lead. There remains much work to be done to deploy these assets, and this work will continue overnight. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Young from the Australian Maritime Safety Authority. My colleague is Air Commodore John McGarry from Defence. I will make an opening statement before we open up to you for questions. All times that I use will be expressed in Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time or Canberra time. The Australian Maritime Safety Authority is coordinating the Southern Corridor search for the missing Malaysian Airlines aircraft with assistance from the Australian Defence Force, the Royal New Zealand Air Force and the United States Navy. AMSA's Rescue Coordination Centre of Australia has received satellite imagery of objects possibly related to the search for the missing aircraft flight MH370. RCC Australia received an expert assessment of that satellite imagery this morning, 20th of March. The images were captured by satellite. They may not be related to the aircraft. The assessment of these images was provided by the Australian Geospatial Intelligence Organisation, or AGO, because that's a mouthful, as a possible indication of debris south of the search area that has been the focus of the southern search operation since Monday, 17th of March. The image is in the vicinity of the search area defined and searched in the past 2 days. Further images are expected after commercial satellites were redirected to take high-resolution images of the areas of interest. These will be provided in due course. 4 aircraft have been reoriented to locate the objects approximately 2,500 kilometres southwest of Perth as a result of this information. A Royal Australian Air Force Orion aircraft arrived in the area about 1:50 p.m. this afternoon. A further 3 aircraft have been tasked by RCC Australia to the area later today, including a Royal New Zealand Air Force Orion and the United States Navy Poseidon aircraft. The Poseidon aircraft should be on scene now. The second Australian Orion departed Royal Australian Air Force Base Pearce at 2 p.m. this afternoon and should be on scene at 6 p.m. this afternoon. The New Zealand Orion is due to depart at 4 p.m. this afternoon and should be on scene at 8 p.m. A Royal Australian Air Force C-130 Hercules aircraft has been tasked by RCC Australia to drop datum marker buoys. These marker buoys assist RCC Australia by providing information about water movement to assist in drift modelling. They will provide an ongoing reference point if the task of relocating the objects becomes protracted. A merchant ship that responded to a shipping broadcast issued by RCC Australia on Monday is expected to arrive in the area about 6 p.m, having been diverted by RCC Australia. The Royal Australian Navy warship HMAS Success is en route to the area, but is some days away. She is equipped to recover any objects located and proven to be from MH370. The focus for AMSA is to continue the search operation with all available ships and aircraft. The ships and aircraft are searching for any signs of the missing aircraft. Weather conditions are moderate in the southern Indian Ocean where the search is taking place. However, poor visibility has been reported, and this will hamper both air and satellite efforts. AMSA continues to hold grave concerns for the passengers and crew on board, and I must emphasise that these objects may be very difficult to locate and they may not be related to the search. Air Commodore McGarry and I will now be happy to take any questions.
Mr. Young, what do the objects look like? What do they appear to be?
The objects are relatively indistinct on the imagery. I don't profess to be an expert in assessing the imagery, but those who are expert indicate they are credible sightings. The indication to me is of objects that are a reasonable size and probably awash with water walking up and down over the surface.
Can you give us any idea of the size? Like the size of a basketball or a seat cushion, or much larger than that?
No, much larger than that. The largest image that I've seen is assessed as being 24 metres. There's another one that's smaller than that, and a number of other images in the general area of the biggest one.
You said that an aircraft arrived at about 1:50. That's almost 2 hours ago now. Have you had any report back?
The aircraft is reported on the weather on scene. That's where I get the information that there's poor visibility in the area. And perhaps Air Commodore McGarry can talk about the implications of that separately.
So is that aircraft on scene, has that relocated the piece of wreckage that was spotted on the satellite?
No, there have been no sighting yet.
What will the merchant ship do? Will that, if it does find the objects, or if it gets to the scene and the objects are there, will it pick them up?
The most likely scenario is that an aircraft will find an object, if it is findable, and then report back an accurate GPS position, and AMSA would task the ship to proceed to the area and attempt to see it. That would be our first chance to get a close-up look at whatever the objects might be, and progressively advance the identification of whether they're associated with the search or not.
When was the satellite imagery actually captured? Do you know what time, what day?
We were provided it from the Australian AGO this morning, but I might ask Air Commodore McGarry to speak about the imagery.
So the imagery is being progressively captured by satellites passing over various areas. The task of analysing imagery is quite difficult. It requires drawing down frames and going through frame by frame. The moment that this imagery was discovered to reveal a possible object that might indicate a debris field, we have passed the information from Defence across to AMSA for their action.
AGO are the nation's foremost experts on this kind of stuff. Is it fair to say that if they've had a look at it and believe that it is credibly debris from the plane, that we can sort of draw conclusions from that there's a fair chance that it is?
Look, quite simply, it is credible enough to divert the research to this area on the basis it provides a promising lead to what might be wreckage from the debris field. John, if you want to elaborate any further on that.
The only elaboration I would make on that is we have been in this business of doing search and rescue and using satellite images before, and they do not always turn out to be related to the search, even if they look good. So we will hold our views on that until they're cited close up.
What kind of satellite was it that spotted the debris in the first place, and whose satellite was it?
I'm unable to advise you, I'm sorry, I simply do not know.
You mentioned further satellite imagery. When do you expect to receive that?
Well, AGO will continue to provide all possible support to this operation. The ability to retask assets, commercial and others, to enable us to focus in on an area to support this search will become a priority, but I'm unable to give you any advice on when additional imagery or whether that additional imagery might even hold any further clues.
Mr. Young, you said the other day that the water here was very deep. Do you have a more specific idea of just how deep the water is and what would be the nature of the seafloor?
I apologise, I remember taking that question, but I didn't check it any further. I understand it would be several thousand metres deep. Right. I'm speculating an abyssal plain floor, but I will check it and I will get the information back to you this time.
That'll be a rough floor.
I will check it and I'll get the information back to you this time.
2,400 kilometres from Pierce, how many are flying out of that to actually reach that destination?
So that area is now approximately 4 hours flying time for the P3, and it enables us to spend approximately 2 hours or a little bit more perhaps on station once we get into the search area.
So how long can they, how much fuel have they got to stay over that area?
Well, it's 2 hours of endurance once we're on station, so it's 2 hours of search time that we can devote. I can't give you how many pounds or gallons of fuel that might equate to.
Mr. Young, what would your advice be to the families who've been waiting for 12 days for news of this plane?
I would advise that AMSA is doing its level best to find anyone that may have survived. If indeed the aircraft came into the southern corridor, and if indeed these objects sighted by satellite are associated with the aircraft, that will put us into a more accurate search area than the one we have at the moment.
Mr. Young, the other day you said you described this operation as trying to find a needle in a haystack. Is it surprising that you possibly detected these objects so soon in your search?
I don't want to draw too many conclusions from this. We have two separate forms of analysis here. You might recall on the slide here, two yellow arrows pointing to analysis done by the United States National Transportation Safety Board about the movements of the aircraft. That has focused searching, and we have now seen satellite imagery of two objects, or a number of objects there. I don't want to draw too much from that. This is a lead. It is probably the best lead we have right now, but we need to get there, find them, see them, assess them, to know whether it's really meaningful or not. And of course, again, they'll be difficult to find. They may not be associated with the aircraft, and we have plenty of experience of that in other searches.
Has this sparked a flood of further assistance offers to Australia now that this information's been found?
Defence, we have had offers potentially from other countries for military assets. The distance to the search area lends itself to certain types of aircraft that have long range and marine search radar capabilities. It is a long way off the Australian mainland. And we are working through defence channels to facilitate the provision of that assistance if those other nations are able to support.
But you haven't taken on any extra assistance at the moment?
We continue to work with those nations to see how they can assist.
Have the Chinese offered formally?
We are aware of the Chinese taking an interest in searching in the southern area, but we continue to work with nations to facilitate their integration into the current search.
And just to be clear,
Sorry. Can I add to that we provide regular briefings for the countries that are involved in this search, including in the Rescue Coordination Centre, where attachés come in on a daily basis, so that we can keep them informed about what's going on.
And just to be clear, all of your resources are now devoted to this specific area. You're not continuing to search any other area?
You're correct. This is close enough to the National Transportation Safety Board's assessed area to be a possible sighting. And we want to find them, and we want to work out what they are from seeing. That's our priority at the moment.
Generally, how, in terms of this area of ocean, which is fairly pristine, how often would one expect to find a large piece of debris like this floating? Is it a common occurrence, or is it something like with perhaps aircraft crews, would they see large pieces of debris like this floating as a consequence of storms and things, or is this quite unusually large?
Our experience is that there is debris out there. It can be containers from ships, for example, falling overboard, and other objects of that type. On this particular occasion, the size and the fact that there are a number located in the same area really makes it worth looking at. But I don't want to speculate about what they are until we get there and we see them.
And sorry, can you tell us a little more about how many pieces have been sent? Is it just 2? And the dimensions of the other pieces?
No, I can't tell any more about that.
And when you said 24 metres earlier in the press conference, you mean lengthwise? Is it a long? What sort of object?
The image on the satellite image has a sort of blob with an assessment of 4 metres against it, which is the assessment that's been made by the expert that assessed it.
Is there any oil in the ocean around it or anything like that?
You can't tell that from the satellite image. Sorry.
When do you think you can bring that thing, that object, back to either Piers or back to Canberra for an assessment?
There are many steps to happen before we get to that point. We have to locate it, confirm that it belongs to the aircraft, recover it, and then bring it a long way back to Australia. So that would take some time. What we're looking for is a confirmation that it does belong to the aircraft or it does not. And we'll consider what follows from that.
At this early stage of the injury you've seen, is there anything that suggests it is at least part of an aircraft? Are there windows that you can see? What are there markings? Are there any bits and pieces that suggest it's actually from the aircraft?
The imagery is not that precise.
Or when can you provide a clear image, picture of that object?
We're working to provide imagery for you. I don't have it with me right at the moment, but we are working to provide imagery released for media purposes at the earliest opportunity.
When will the new further information be released today?
Sorry?
When will the new further information be released today from the Air Force?
Information will be released in media statements as usual. I suggest you talk with AMSA's media people after the conference.
When do you realistically expect to have some more information based on the assets that you have out there at the moment?
It's in the nature of search and rescue operations, and I cannot answer that for you. We have 4 aircraft out there this afternoon. The weather is not playing the game with us. We may get a sighting, we may not. We may get it tomorrow, we may not. But we will continue to do this until we locate those objects or we're convinced that we cannot find them. Thank you very much.
Sorry, are you able to just give us an idea of when you might get images?